everyone, and welcome back to another Mavens of Manufacturing episode. I'm really excited. Today we have Liz Rasking. Hello, Liz. How are you doing? I
I'm
just
good.
combined your first name and your last name together and almost called you Rizzo from Greece.
You can call me Lizzo anytime. That's hardly a bad thing.
I
Thank
love that movie. But thank you for joining me today on Mavens of Manufacturing. Um, I like to start off all of my episodes just getting to know a little bit more about you, but you are the strategic business manager for Phoenix Mecano in North America, correct?
Yep. I just
So
recently changed titles, not that long ago. I used to be the sales engineer, their first sales engineer, and have transitioned to this position.
that's awesome. Well, congratulations for the transition and a new job title. That's always exciting. But can you tell us about like the beginnings of you and how you got involved with engineering and manufacturing, and then get into detail about how that led you to where you are now with Phoenix Mecano?
Yeah, so, well, how I got started out in engineering is kind of a funny story. I didn't originally want to be an engineer.
Mhm.
Growing up, I always wanted to be a zoologist because I figured I could be the Mexican Diane Fossey or, Jane Goodall. Born and raised in LA, I had no idea what, life in the great outdoors was actually going to take. And I realized I don't like camping. So that wasn't a very, good, career choice for me. So throughout high school, I went to this brand new program that was in its infancy at that time. It was called the California Academy of Mathematics and Science, and
Okay.
its mission was basically to take talented minority youth from 7 different school districts within Southern California, and bus them into a magnet school that was specifically intended for fostering futures with students in STEM fields.
Okay.
And so I did that. I was a member of the first graduating class of 94, so I'm aging myself here. um, and throughout my 4 years there, I just realized that there was a lot of different applications and careers that seemed of interest to me. And I was kind of settling on, well, maybe I want to go into biology, or maybe I do want to do zoology, but I don't want to do field work. And it wasn't until one of my classmates had basically said, oh, well, good that you're choosing that, because you could never be an engineer anyway. And I was just like, say what? You
Right.
know, so, nothing actually motivates me more to do something than to be told that I can't. Like,
Right. Right.
you're a girl, you can't do that. Like, hold my beer and watch.
Challenge accepted.
Exactly. Exactly. So when I started out, I was like, okay, so what's the hardest engineering discipline that I can, pick for myself just to prove that I can do it? So I
Mhm.
actually went to chemical engineering. I graduated from Long Beach State, and my career started out in oil and gas. So I
Okay.
worked for, I basically funded my undergrad by working as an Inroads intern, for an oil company at that time. And Inroads is another one of these, wonderful nonprofit organizations that basically pairs up, underrepresented, underserved community youth with, corporate sponsorships, paid corporate sponsorships. And the idea is that you develop this, long-term relationship with your sponsor so that when you graduate, you have a job waiting for you. And so, I went through that program, and it was tough, but it was really, really educational, because part of that program was, boot camp during the year. You do
Mhm.
you did your internship during the summer, and then, during the school year, you would have to take classes and workshops on top of your regular load, so that,
Okay.
you'd learn how to speak publicly. You'd have to learn how to write, business communications. You'd have to learn,
Mhm.
how do you assimilate into a corporate culture that's not used to having people like you, around. And so I am still friends with folks that I went through that boot camp with from like 1995. So, it was kind of like, it was an amazing experience to be around that many talented people, and also
Yeah.
that many talented people that had a passion and a drive for industry. Whether it was, manufacturing or, oil and gas or, financial services or the medical industry, there really wasn't a discipline that we didn't touch in one way or another. So I always, throughout college, I always kind of felt like I was getting exposed to a lot of different elements, of industry. And I hadn't really figured out, where I wanted to hone in on, or home in on. Graduated school, and I decided that I was going to try my hand at being a process engineer for the Department of Energy. So I worked, I worked designing water treatment tanks for a nuclear waste facility in Eastern Washington. Did that for a year, hated it. And I was just like, okay, this is not what I want to do with the rest of my life. And at the time, I was dating, a foreign exchange student from my college. And, he was just like, hey, how about we get married? And, are you up for an adventure? You want to move to Germany? I was like, sure. Why not? And so basically, I, quit my job with the DOE and packed up, moved over to Germany, and I found it incredibly difficult to be taken serious as a chemical engineer, in German, like a very patriarchal German society, needing to sign long-term contracts, and I'd have to admit that at the time my fluency in German wasn't, what it would need to be in order for me to have that was equivalent to what I had at Texaco. And so just by chance, I saw a full page ad in the local Frankfurt newspaper that was in English, which is unusual. And it was for FedEx. And FedEx was looking for an industrial engineer to come in and to work on process optimization and, business planning, business analysis, for the Frankfurt International Airport. That's at the time that was their Central European hub. And so I said, well, I understand flows and I can read, schematics, and, I have an engineering. How hard could this be? Right. So I went to work for FedEx, and I did that for about 7 years. And I really enjoyed it, mostly because it exposed me to, international, logistics, and the department that I supported originally was import and export. And so, even though FedEx was, is an American company, I still needed to work on my German, and I spoke German with, all of my colleagues. But it was really an international, environment where I would collaborate with colleagues from all over, Europe and Northern Africa. And, that really opened my eyes to, the beauty of this, working for an international company, and so I decided, okay, well, this is fun. And it was fun until it was time, to go on a parental break. So I needed to, time out on the engineering, and, suit up for mom, motherhood. And I took an extended career break, probably about 7, 8 years, to raise my little ones. And in the meantime, I can't sit still. Like, I can't just, like, I can be mom, right? But I need to be doing something else, right? Because it's always been, part of, what's defined me, personally is the projects that I like to work on and take pride in. So I decided that, while I was not working for a company, I would work for myself. And I decided, and this has nothing to do with engineering at all, but I decided that I was really, really passionate about supporting, friends of mine that were artists. And I decided that I was going to open up my own art gallery in Germany, in, the university district there. Of Frankfurt. And so I ran my gallery for about 10 years. And I taught myself everything that I could teach myself with regards to like lithography, serigraphs, digital printing, etching, wood cuts, and casting resins and things like that. Like
Mhm.
I'm an absolute nerd. If I'm going to do something, then I need to know everything about it.
Yeah.
So that if I talk about it, I can do it from a position of confidence and
Mhm.
right? And so because I had never done that before, I needed to teach myself and be coached and mentored by my artists, how to acquire the skills needed to be successful, right? Because
Mhm.
yeah, sure, I know what I can manage a budget, and I can calculate, all different kinds of things, but I didn't know anything about web design. That's not what I studied.
Mhm.
Didn't know anything about graphic design or social media campaigns, or what does it take to build a brand and create an awareness campaign. um,
Mhm.
and I really needed to kind of bring my A game to event planning as well, and lobbying and networking. And
Yeah.
so it really broke my heart at the end, at the end of that journey, to have to close the shop. But one of the greatest lessons that that I've learned, I learned from my husband, and he said, if you play your cards right, neither your experience nor your network needs to be wasted. It's not going to pay you off right now, but you never know where this is going to take you. And so I was just like, yeah, okay, that's a positive way to look at it.
Mhm.
Not wasted. I did learn something. And so after I closed down the gallery, I did a really short stint, for CNN, in Germany, working in ad sales for them, and
Okay.
decided, okay, it's time to move back home. For personal reasons, I said, it's time to bring this era in Germany to a close, and it's time to pack up and go back home.
Mhm.
At that point, I had already been there almost 20 years. So
Wow.
yeah, I
A
was supposed
long
to
time.
be 2 years, right? That was the original plan. I wound up staying for 20.
That's amazing.
And
That had to
so
be such a fun time though. Like you just did a lot over there. And how long was your gallery open for that you
it was
had?
open for almost 10 years.
Okay. And is your husband German then? Or is
So
he
my first husband was
Oh,
German, so my kids are
gotcha.
half German, and my second husband's American. So
Gotcha.
hence
Okay.
the move back.
Gotcha, gotcha. Okay. So then how was everything when you moved back to America? Like how did you go from, doing the ad stuff for CNN and having your own gallery to getting returning to engineering manufacturing? Because I took a break too from manufacturing and tried to go in higher education, and I got completely bored out of my mind. And I was like, I got to go back to engineering and manufacturing because that's where all the fun people are at. So what was that process like, and
Well,
when you returned?
what was really interesting was that I actually didn't apply for the sales engineering job at Phoenix Mecano.
Okay.
This is just fate and karma and serendipity just kind of
Yep.
working together to put me where I need to be. And when I moved back, it was just before COVID hit. So
Okay.
my kids were less than impressed with me. They were like, "You talked up this good game about moving back to the U.S. and now we're in lockdown." And it's like, well,
Yeah.
so is the rest of the world. So
Yeah. You didn't
you
have any control over that.
no. And so I did lockdown just like everybody else, and I decided, it's time for me to rebrand, and it's time for
Okay.
me to get, serious about kickstarting, my career again. What that would look like, I wasn't really sure.
Okay.
I know what I like and I know what I don't like.
Hmm.
And so I have just wound up uploading my resume on Indeed.
Oh,
I was trying to get notifications, for a specific employer, and the only way that I would find out if there was new job postings is if my resume was up on Indeed.com. And
okay.
out of the blue, I get a phone call from, the human resources director for, Phoenix Mecano. And, she said, I think we have a position that might be just right up your alley, and I'm thinking, oh, really? What? And she's like, oh, it's a sales engineering position. We need somebody with a technical background that can, talk to customers, that can reverse engineer, do some project management, and so on and so forth, qualify opportunities and things of that nature. And I was like, oh, that's great. What's the industry? Manufacturing. I'm like, oh, I've never worked in manufacturing before. And she was like, oh, well, that's okay. We're not shy, we're not going to shy away from you just because of that. And I thought to myself, well, okay, but truth be told, every single one of the jobs that I had never done before. So it wasn't like I was intimidated or anything. It was just, cards on the table. I'm probably going to have a higher learning curve than somebody who's already been in the industry for a few years, right? And so I started work with Phoenix Mecano as a sales engineer, and did that for 2 years. And then we segue into what I'm doing now. And what's interesting is that I had a conversation with my boss, and I was asking her. I said, "So what made you pick me for position, right? Like, I'm not fresh out of school, and I'm not a manufacturing engineer, so why me?" And then she said, because you've demonstrated that you have sales experience, and that is what makes you as an engineer a unicorn. So that's why I changed my little LinkedIn thing. I'm like, okay, manufacturing Maven and engineering unicorn.
Yeah. Okay.
And so
go ahead. I was going to ask you another question, man. I can wait.
So when she said that I had, the sales experience, as an engineer, I just wanted to point out, listen, I also have some marketing experience as well, right? Because of, building up the gallery from scratch, you really have to learn how to read your customer. How do you listen? And how do you figure out what their pain point, is, for you to be able to service them and so forth. And so, and I think it was that, and, some of the leadership positions that I had, previously, that made her think, how about, would you think about, doing, strategic business management, for North America, for our top 3 verticals? And I was just like, absolutely, sign me up. So, and that's how I landed where I'm at right now.
That's really cool, because that's a new position that I've seen recently on LinkedIn. I have an acquaintance, Jordan Yates, and she was the first profile that I saw, marketing engineer, on LinkedIn. And I was like, that's interesting. I've never seen that word, marketing, paired with an engineer before, because usually everything has been so siloed traditionally. So you have your sales, you have your marketing, and then you have your engineering team. And it's just been recently, maybe over the last 5 years, I would say, that they all started to combine and communicate with each other and have meaningful conversations. Because, as much as one might hate to admit it, one group might hate to admit it, they all need one another to be successful and drive the success of the team. So you're definitely a unicorn by being able to do the sales part, the engineering part, and the marketing part. Like, you don't normally see that within one individual. So, they hit the jackpot with you, I would say, in terms of like how you're marketing to their potential customers. So did you ever hear of Phoenix Mecano before?
Nope.
So can you give us more information on what the company is and what sort of products and services they provide? Because I've never heard of them until I met you. So I'm pretty sure our audience would want to know a little bit more detail about that company.
So yeah, Phoenix Mecano, think of Phoenix Mecano like Procter & Gamble. It's a holding company. Phoenix Mecano is a Swiss-based, holding group. And at any given time, we own over 60 manufacturing facilities worldwide.
Wow.
So
Okay.
we have different verticals, and we specialize in the manufacturing and modification of customized automation solutions. What does that mean? Well, what do you want it to mean? We do everything from electronic enclosures to industrial enclosure systems to control panels that are mounted onto ergonomic suspension arm systems. We also
Okay.
sell T-slot aluminum profile, that's modular lifts, linears, electric cylinders. If you need it to move, if you need it to to hold something, you want to build something, you want to create a framework, we sell all of the components for that. Would you like us to powder coat it pink? Because we can do that too. So
That's
our,
awesome.
right? I'm waiting to come up with like a hot pink staircase or something. So our facility out of Maryland, that's where we do all of our value-added services. So
Okay.
we will, source most of the product, from our, sister companies from our factories, in Central Europe. We also have a facility in, in India. Or depending on, if it's one of our best selling, profiles, we'll extrude that locally. To keep pricing, down for specific, models. And essentially, what I tell people is, we can help you as much or as little as makes sense, for your application. What's important for us is to understand, what's the problem? What's the, what's the conflict that we're trying to resolve here? Is it increasing the quality of a specific product that a manufacturer is trying to bring to market, or is it to create a more lean workplace? Because then we can also help with the design and the engineering, for that. We, in addition to having a production facility in Maryland, we have our own in-house design engineering team, as well as a sales engineering team. So like the sales engineers are the first can be the first point of contact for new customers that are coming to us, that are a little unsure what what kind of solutions we're able to provide to them. And so then sales engineers then take that information and confer with the designers, to come up with a quote and or alternatives for the customer. So we really pride ourselves on the partnership that we establish with our customers, and also the customer service that we offer them. We're very hands-on, like white glove service, right?
Right.
And when it comes to like the industries that we serve, I don't have a very satisfying answer for that, because like the short answer is all of them. There is not a single industry that Phoenix Mecano doesn't sell to. Whether it's military or automotive or medical industry or measurement and instrumentation or themed entertainment, right? All of those industries have applications that can utilize, one or the other or several of our products or, our product families. And then that brings me to like, the next question that folks like to ask me. And yes, it's a canned answer, but it's an honest answer. When folks are like, oh, so who's your ideal customer? Like who comes to you, for your stuff? And, my answer is always Goldilocks.
What does that mean?
Goldilocks is my customer, because like the folks that come to me because they've been they've shopped on distribution websites, they've been to DigiKey and Newark and everything, and they're like, that enclosure's too big and that enclosure's too small, and I need just right. I need something just right, just perfect for my application, because my application is special, right? And so, and that's what we do. So, we'll figure out, okay, what are your constraints? What are you looking for? And then, we reverse engineer it. And we're like, okay, this is what we can offer you. And then, depending on what their price point is, we can work with them on that as well.
That's a fun answer. I've never heard that before. So that's a first for me. But I mean, that's I think that's a reasonable answer, though, especially within manufacturing, because especially now with all of the automation solutions that are available, first time buyers don't really know what it is that they're looking for, and they really need that guidance to help find the perfect solution for their application. So I think that's a creative way to say, yeah, Goldie. Sorry, deal customer.
And also because a lot of startup companies or a lot of
Mhm.
young companies, they get really frustrated because they're not able to find somebody who's willing to take a chance on them to develop some
Mhm.
prototypes, right? When you go to some of our larger competitors, you have minimum order quantities that you have to meet, or to get affordable pricing, or um, they're just not willing to customize anything. It's like, okay, this is our line, these are the
Yeah.
sizes, these are the materials of construction, take it or leave it. And
Hmm.
that leaves a lot of smaller companies or startups, particularly firms that want to invest more in research and development. It leaves them in a lurch, for trying to find a solution that can work for them. And so this is one of the reasons why I like telling folks, our ideal lot size is smaller than 100, right? We don't shy away from prototyping. We are not a mass manufacturer, and that being said, I also have to say we're also not the cheapest in the market, right?
Hmm.
But we do pride ourselves on the quality and in like I said, the partnership and the customer service that we establish with our customers. We don't want to be their vendor. We want to help them develop their products, and I think that's what sets us apart from some other competitors in the manufacturing arena, where it's just like, okay, you plug in your dimensions into this CPQ, or into this website, and here's your quote, and
Hmm.
then you never hear from anybody again. Well, we
Yeah.
actually, we want to learn more about the application. We want to learn more about, each industry that, we help support, because we feel like, the more context we're able to provide, the customer as to why we're making a certain recommendation, the more solid that solution, is going to be.
Yeah. That's really cool and interesting. So, I mean, you've had a lot of experience in many different areas, and so, what is it about the the manufacturing sector that you are enjoying the most? Like, what are some of your favorite things being in the position that you're in and helping connect Phoenix Mecano to potential customers or even, potential partners that you're working with?
Um, I would have to say it's the variety of applications that we're able to support, and I think that's one of the reasons why, when I came back, I made a concerted effort, to get back into engineering,
Hmm.
mainly because, you know, it's going to sound very, lofty and aspirational, but I mean it, and that's, I wanted to help try and rebuild, American infrastructure in whatever way that I could, in whatever way that I can, and it could just be me being a tiny itty bitty wheel in some, giant machine, but I feel a really strong sense of purpose when it comes to two things. One is reinvigorating American manufacturing, and
Hmm.
two, it's, paying back all of the helping hands that I had coming up, to future generations that want to get, into engineering or into manufacturing.
Yeah, so that's a great segue into my next question. So, I mean, you kind of fell into this by chance because you said it wasn't something that you were interested in the beginning, and then you found this great program at your school. What in what ways do you, not just you personally, but Phoenix Mecano as well, are you helping to shape the future of engineering and manufacturing? Because right now we have this skills gap, trading gap. I mean, there's different names to call it, but it's mostly known by the skills gap. Like, how are you connecting current generations to the next generation so that they are having conversations? How are you getting kids, not just that are in high school, but younger than high school? How are you getting them excited? And what sort of stance is Phoenix Mecano taking on? on the gap that's existing right now?
So when it comes to us, our outreach and our recruitment efforts, I would, I like to now, tout that we have our own inroads intern that we've made a permanent, position or a permanent offer to. And so our human resources department and our engineering director are very intentional about wanting to do outreach with specific programs. We're based in Frederick, Maryland, so
Okay.
we have a partnership with various local government organizations and nonprofits, things like Frederick Workforce, and also we sponsored our Inroads intern. And we are specifically looking for, graduates of schools where, there's either an MEP program, like, a minority, engineering student program. And we're taking chances, right? I mean, because that's part of the, and you'll have to forgive me for getting on my soapbox to, just a little bit, all right? Because, I gotta be said. So
I enjoy people getting on their soapbox.
So, in my opinion, in my humble opinion, I think that if you continue to recruit from the exact same, universities that you have always been recruiting from, and you just decide to choose someone that's got a little more melanin than you do, that's actually not diversifying your workforce, that's window dressing, right?
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
So what I would challenge employers to do is go to different universities, go where you're not comfortable, go after, or try to partner with programs that are specifically designed, to train, coach, mentor the leaders of, tomorrow. They're out there. They are out there, go to HBCUs, or go to a trade school, go to a vocational school, take a chance on someone that is going to challenge and disrupt, your regular, workflow or your way of thinking. That's the only way, in my opinion, that you're really going to innovate and create. When you have more of the same, it's really difficult, to initiate, meaningful and impactful change. When you bring somebody into your organization that is not someone that you would normally, have, whether it's, someone who's been, convicted of a crime before, or it's somebody that doesn't have a master's degree, like whatever your rubric, whatever your measurement tools are, throw them out the window for a second. Like actually have a conversation with that person and figure out, from a cultural perspective, from an ambition, from like a personal ambition perspective, do you see, can you see a future for them with your organization? And if you can, maybe let go of some of the rules that you've already got in place, like, you have to have, a 4 or 5 year degree, or, you need to have certain specific trade skills in order to be considered for a position. Honestly, unless you're going into into a surgical room, everything everything in manufacturing, you can learn on the job.
Yeah, I agree with that 100% too, because I was doing some research because a lot of companies come to me and they're like, well, how can we attract more women specifically? Because that's my niche is women. And I just tell them, like, well, what are your job ads saying? Because women will not normally apply for a job that they don't feel 100% qualified for. So if you have all of these qualifications and they feel like there's just one where they're not hitting the mark on, they're going to most likely turn that position away. Whereas men will look at it, and if they can have 60% qualified for it, then they're going to, you say, why the hell not? I'll apply for it anyways and then learn on the job. Like men have that confidence over women in terms of qualifications. But I like what you said where, throw the rules out the window and look where you normally don't look. Step out of your comfort zone. And one of my good friends, Andrew Crow, he's leading the new manufacturing renaissance tour here in the United States. And he always says, you know, the next Tony Starks is going to be in the hood. And he is like, there's so many bright minds that are coming up in these, you know, low income or impoverished communities. And he is like, they just get looked over because they don't have the resources that other communities have in terms of budget or like getting the right machinery or, you know, just the right teachers too. They don't have the same access to some of these resources that some of the higher income communities have. And he's right. Like there is an inequality or an equity in that in terms of like what resources different communities have. So he's always inviting manufacturers to look into those underrepresented communities because you never know what you're going to find. It's the same thing with like second chance citizens. If someone has committed a crime and they get out of prison right away, most companies will turn them away because they just don't think that they've changed or did a turnaround. And that's not true. They just need one person to believe in them. And if you give them that belief, they can go really, really far. It's also the same with uniquely abled individuals, like some people who have certain disabilities or limitations, physical limitations, they're generally overlooked. And it's not fair, I don't think, in regards to that. I have a nephew who's on the spectrum for autism, and he's so highly intelligent in computers. And I know that my sister-in-law is kind of worried of, you know, how far he might progress. And I'm like, no, there's so many things that he can do in engineering and manufacturing. And there's a lot of groups that are focused on people with autism. So I like gave her all of that information. And he's super excited. He's a senior this year and he can't wait to go to college and build computers for computer games. Like that's what he wants to do. He's so focused on it. So I really like how you said that. On a personal level, is there anything that you're doing yourself outside of Phoenix Mecano to get the next generation excited? Because there's a lot of organizations out there like FIRST and robotic organizations that people can get involved with. Like, what are your go-tos on a personal level?
So on a personal level, you know, I would like, my kid may disagree with me, but my oldest has decided, you know, that they want to pursue a career in engineering. And all along the way, you know, I've tried encouraging, you know, my kid and their friends, you know, to look into engineering, you know, and to look into these internship programs, these STEM programs. And so my oldest got involved with a program out of our, you know, our local county, Howard County Aspire program, where they were able to take, you know, some STEM classes at, you know, the Johns Hopkins, you know, APL, the Applied Physics Laboratory. And that was, you know, basically a gateway into the career that they now said that they absolutely, you know, want. Right? They were like, okay, mom, you know, I'm sorry. No one's, you know, no disrespect to you, but I am not going to become a chemical engineer or a manufacturing engineer. I am going to become a space systems engineer. And I'm like, okay, well, you go on
so
that self, you know. But you know, from a personal perspective, I am now trying to do more outreach and get more involved with like local schools. And our CEO has been really supportive of, you know, us as an organization, as a company, supporting educational projects. So like, if there are any schools out there that, you know, could use some ergonomic, you know, workstations, you know, for laboratories, or, you know, would like to experiment with, you know, mechanical components, you know, that is something that we are interested in helping to foster, you know, and, you know, it doesn't even, it would be better, you know, from a logistics perspective if it was in Maryland, but it doesn't have to be, you know, it just, the application and the opportunity just have to match, you know, but I want to, you got to talk to the little ones, right? You have to get involved. You have to get, you know, girls. So, you know, one, representation counts. It counts 100. I was not able, I couldn't see myself, you know, as an engineer had I not seen, you know, other professional women, you know, before me. And, and the same thing, like, as a Latina, it's like, well, yeah, it matters. It does matter. And so I know that the U.S. Naval Academy has a STEM program, but they have this this one workshop where they will only invite, pre-middle school girls, like, I think it's like grades 3 through 5. Like they'll have like, a workshop for like the really small kids, and then they have like a second workshop, for middle school girls.
Mm-hmm.
And during a Q&A, when it was like mixed, when it was co-ed, one of the boys, raised his hand and was like, well, that's not really fair. Why do you have STEM opportunities only for girls?
Mm-hmm.
And so, the gentleman, who was delivering the talk said it's really easy because the entire chemistry and the entire dynamic of the room changes. If you have a bunch of rambunctious boys and only 2 or 3 girls that are interested, in that topic, they're not going to necessarily get hurt because, they're not taught to be like a boy and be, hey, I have something to say, and or I have a question, to be assertive, right?
Right.
Whereas if you have, a STEM program or a day where it's only girls, the whole dynamic changes. It's a lot more collaborative, when it's just the girls. And so and this is like a 60-year-old man, just telling it like it is. And I'm like, well, I appreciate the fact that, he called that out and he was, that he was honest about it.
Yeah.
I would, what we want to work towards is, having these, co-ed, STEM programs, but, I don't think that there's anything wrong with, providing an opportunity for people that normally don't feel like they have a voice to be able to voice, to be able to participate. What he said was, it's a safe space.
Yeah. And, he does have a point though, like, because that dynamic, it just speaking from my own personal experience, it's the same energy in real life situation too as an adult. Like I've seen it happen where, I've been in a room where there's only 2 or 3 girls and the rest are men, and most of the maybe one out of those 3 girls is vocal and is confident and comfortable to speak out loud and vocalize her opinion in the room full of men. But we tend to chat more and be more collaborative when we're in a group of women, and that's why there are these organizations for women. It's not to like discredit the men that have set the pathway for us. Like I give a lot of credit to all of my male mentors, because if it wasn't for them, I probably would have quit this sector a long time ago. But they were like, no, you have to, get through it, and your opinion matters, your voice matters. So I highly respect all of the male mentors that I've had, because without them, I would not be here. I would probably be doing something else, hiding in the corner somewhere, just because I was an introvert when I first started. But now I'm doing that whole introvert extrovert thing. So yeah, I mean, I agree with him. I think it does change the energy when they can feel comfortable enough to voice their opinion. And I see it with younger girls all the time too. I was just at an event not too long ago, and there was a FIRST robotics team there, and there was one girl that was there for the team, and I was trying to ask her questions, and the guys, they weren't trying to be rude. It's just how they are. They would talk over her and answer the question. I'm like, okay, I want to know what she has to say. So I literally called her out so that she could get a chance to talk. And she had her arms like folded, and you could see her kind of stepping back. So I was like, no, I want to hear from you. How was your experience? What were you in charge of? What were some of the ideas that you brought forward? How was your experience? And she then started like unfolding her arms, and her whole body language changed, just because she knew that I wanted to talk to her. So it made her feel a little bit more comfortable. And I told her, I was like, I'm not trying to embarrass you or anything. I was like, but you need to use your voice more, because if you want more girls to sign up for the team next year, you're going to have to be that person to pull them in, because they're not going to listen to the guy. So she's like,
Right.
okay. So it was just really cute to see that whole dynamic change. So,
She's got to be captain. She has to feel comfortable,
yeah,
being the captain of the team.
yeah. But it was funny because some of the guys that I were with that weren't on the team, they were with me. They kept talking over her too, and I'm like, you need to stop talking, like let her talk. And they were like, oh, sorry. And I was like, I know you're excited, but geez, like calm down over there. So it was just really fun to see. Um, Liz, what are some of the things that you are looking forward to? Like, are there any new trends that are coming out that you're really excited about, or is there anything that Phoenix Mecano is getting ready for that you're really excited about and want to share with all of us?
Yeah. So some of the things, that are coming down, the pipeline, as it were, that I'm really excited about is, this transition, within the U.S., to more renewable energy sources, and whether that's our supporting offshore wind farms, or the electrification of fleet vehicles or specialty delivery vehicles, improving, water treatment, facilities, anything that has to do with infrastructure. Those types of projects have a near and dear, place in my heart, because it's like that touches everyone.
Mm-hmm.
That doesn't
Yeah.
just benefit, one person or one state, or, one person from, this side of the political divide versus somebody else. It benefits everyone. And so,
Yeah.
those are really the types of projects that I feel really passionate about. But in addition to that, my CEO basically said that he wants us to transition from selling mechanical components to partnering with companies to develop new technology. Right? We have over 50 years of experience doing what we do. We know what we're doing. We do it really well. And we want to help, bring that expertise, and provide it as a foundation for, startup companies or companies that are involved in research and development that are looking for, a partner to help them bring something new to the market, to either, to and whatever that application may be, whether it's a security system or whether it's helping to design measurement and instrumentation tools for the medical industry. These are all touch points that we want to get involved with. It's not just about it's like, sure, I can sell you a box. That's not that's easy. That's the easy part.
Right.
But what I really want to do is get involved in designing the solution, or playing a part in, in the design phase, to help bring something, new, to our economy. And yeah, and sometimes some of the strangest bedfellows can provide some of the most interesting applications.
Mm-hmm.
Like right now, I mean, I focus on the medical industry and on, the automotive industry, but, now I'm also like doing a deep dive into themed entertainment and, everything that, is included, as part of that whole ecosystem. And it is just a whole new world.
Yeah. I have a friend who's really obsessed with like roller coasters, and I didn't think about how much automation played a role in those types of theme park rides, or even like the stuff that entertainers are doing, and how much goes into planning a show. And like it's insane how robotics is touching a lot of things that we're involved with now. So I just
Oh
that would
yeah,
be an interesting.
I've seen like some monster Kuka and Fanuc,
Yeah.
robots like in these monster flat screens, just kind of dancing, behind the stage, and I'm fascinated. I'm just like, oh, how did you do that? And and who are you using for your control system? Like a turnkey solution, right? These are all the questions. Like I said, when I nerd out, I nerd out, and I need to know everything.
Yeah, you'd be a good tech writer doing that.
Yeah, that could be like one of the many hats, that I have.
Yeah.
everywhere, throughout the week. But yeah, anything new, anything innovative, anything, that helps improve the human experience, however you want to define that, whether that's us, whether it's us helping improve patient care by, providing, lifting, operating tables, or, um, adjustable seats, or, ergonomic workstations, or if it's us, helping to deliver, more renewable energy by, again, supporting offshore wind or solar energy, solar, panel, manufacturers, or, electrifying cars. It's this idea that we shouldn't stand still. Like, I can't stand still. Anybody that knows me knows I can't, I get bored. So
I feel like that's a common thing amongst engineers, where they have to keep going and doing stuff, because otherwise they would drive themselves crazy.
Well, and that kind of brings me full circle to the very first job that I had, as a process engineer for the DOE, because I actually met, some of the senior engineers, on the job, and, at the site, and they were still sizing and resizing the same pump after 15 years. And I was like, oh no, this does not bode well for me, I'm not seeing myself here for very much longer. No, but I mean, it was a learning experience. I learned what it's like to be a government contractor, and this is why I work in the private sector.
This has been a great conversation, and I've learned so much about you and, Phoenix Mecano. And my last question would be, if you had one ask for our audience, what would that ask be? And if that's, for people to connect with you so that you can start building those partnerships, that's fine. But if you have another one, I would love to know what that is.
Well, I think, asking people to connect me, like if they're interested in networking with me, in a genuine and an authentic way, they're more than welcome to reach out to me on LinkedIn. I am on there. I am active. I would like to remind people that LinkedIn is not a dating site. So,
it's not.
No, it isn't. But, I think some folks miss the memo on that one.
Yeah, they have other apps for that.
Yes. There's a lot of other apps for that are much more effective. No, I would say if I had to pick one thing for folks to take away, from my incessant talking, it's be bold and tell your story.
I love that. That's awesome. Well, Liz, I appreciate you so much for coming and sharing your story on Mavens of Manufacturing. You truly are a Maven of Manufacturing, so thank you for sharing.
Thank you.
Reach out to her on LinkedIn, not for dinner dates or drinks, for information about herself or Phoenix Mecano. And I hope you guys all have a great weekend. Thank you for tuning in, and we'll talk soon. Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Ever try to fit a round peg into a square hole? It's not easy or very satisfying. What if you created a shape that's never existed before? How would you make that fit? Every day, engineers and manufacturers are challenged with designing and creating products that don't quite match existing standards. They need an experienced partner to help them break the mold. For over 50 years, the brand families of Phoenix Mecano designed and delivered operational excellence to various industry sectors worldwide. You may have heard of us as Rose System Technik, Opla, Rosenkrieger, or PTR Hartmann. Our specialities range from industrial enclosure systems to sleek, agile workstations. At Phoenix Mecano North America, we can use our in-house production capabilities to customize our products for you or your end customer. We're in the business of assembling, surface treating, machining, screen printing, cutting, receiving, and exporting customized automation tools that serve customers worldwide. You don't need to default to what's been done before. We're here to help you think outside the box. We're here to help you build your own box. We're more than just the components we sell. We're the team ready to help you build a better tomorrow together.